More than half a century later, Nigerians are still fighting over January 15, 1966. Not with guns, with arguments, with emotions passed down from parents to children. Some say it was a revolution. Some say it was an ethnic conspiracy. Some say it was a failed coup hijacked by fate. And the uncomfortable truth is this: everyone remembers the 1966 coup differently, because Nigeria itself was never one shared experience. This video is not here to defend any region, tribe, or military figure. It is here to lay out the facts, the fears, the mistakes, and the silences, so you can decide for yourself. Nigeria did not collapse on January 15, 1966. It had been cracking slowly since independence in 1960. At independence, Nigeria was not a unified nation. It was a forced merger of regions with different political cultures, different economic strengths, different fears. The northern region was larger than the east and west combined. The western region was politically sophisticated and deeply divided. The eastern region was commercially aggressive and rapidly educated. At the center was a weak federal government led by Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, trying to balance a structure that was never designed to be stable. By the early 1960s, elections were openly rigged. Violence became a campaign tool. Courts lost legitimacy. Regional leaders trusted their own power blocks, not Nigeria. The Western region crisis of 1964-65 was especially explosive. Political opponents were jailed, houses were burned. The phrase "bofation," "wetie," entered Nigerian vocabulary. The military watched all of this, and many young officers came to a dangerous conclusion: if politicians cannot save Nigeria, then soldiers must. The January 1966 coup was planned mostly by young majors, not senior generals. The most famous among them was Chukwuma Kaduna Nzeogwu. Intelligent, disciplined, intense, and deeply convinced Nigeria was rotting from corruption. Their stated goals: end corruption, stop political violence, reset the country. But here's the first uncomfortable truth: they had no detailed plan for what came after. No political transition blueprint. No clear civilian replacement. No national consensus. Just guns and belief. In the early hours of January 15, key political and military leaders were targeted. Those killed included Ahmadu Bello, Premier of Northern Nigeria Samuel Akintola, Premier of Western Nigeria senior military officers, mostly from the north and west, but some powerful figures survived. Nnamdi Azikiwe was abroad. Key eastern politicians were untouched. This selective outcome, whether intentional or accidental, changed Nigerian history forever. The coup did not succeed nationwide. In Lagos, confusion reigned. In the north, resistance was fierce. In the east, control was partial. Most critically, senior officers were not fully eliminated, and one man stepped into the vacuum. Major General Johnson Aguiyi-Ironsi did not plan the coup. But after it failed, he was the highest-ranking surviving officer. He took control to prevent total collapse. This is where history becomes deeply contested. Ironsi faced an impossible situation. The coup plotters were mostly Igbo. The victims were mostly northern and western leaders. Nigeria was emotionally on fire, yet Ironsi did not publicly punish the coup plotters, immediately promoted some officers linked to the coup-issued decree. No. 34. Which abolished federalism. To many in the North, this looked like a coup rewarded, not condemned. Whether that perception was fair or not no longer mattered. Decree 34 aimed to create a unitary system. Ironsi believed federalism encouraged division. But Nigerians, especially in the North, heard something else. Your autonomy is gone. Civil servants panicked. Rumors exploded. Barracks became angry spaces. And then, violence followed. In July 1966, Northern officers struck back. Ironsi was killed. So was Litani, Coup, Adekunle Fajuyi. This was not framed as reform. It was framed as retribution. Soon after, mass killings of Igbo civilians began in northern cities. This was no longer a military dispute. Nigeria had entered ethnic trauma. Lieutenant Colonel Yakubu Gowon emerged as compromise leader. Young, relatively neutral, northern but not part of the hardliners. His task was survival. Keep Nigeria together. Calm the military, stop total disintegration. But the damage was already done. Trust was gone. Ethnic memory. People remember who died. And who didn't. Silence of the state Nigeria never held a true national truth process. Civil War, aftermath. The war froze narratives into permanent positions. History without healing. Textbooks simplified trauma instead of explaining it. The coup was not purely ethnic, but ethnicity shaped its outcome. The plotters were idealistic, but dangerously unprepared. Ironsi underestimated fear outside his region. The counter-coup turned grievance into genocide. Nigeria never emotionally recovered. Only politically patched itself. The 1966 coup was a protest against corruption, a failure of planning, a tragedy of perception. The spark of Nigeria's deepest wound. It was not destiny. It was human error layered on fear. And until Nigerians learn to sit with all sides of this truth, not just the version that comforts them, the coup will never truly end. The tragedy of 1966 is not that Nigerians disagree. It's that we never learned how to listen to each other afterward.